What is up, 49er faithful? Welcome back. I just gotta react to the 49ers Super Bowl 58. Um, just didn't want to do it yesterday. I mean, we all know that the 49ers ended up losing. I'm just so heartbroken, just disappointed and really sad about it. I mean, it just hurts my stomach to see that this team went this far, and it's been a goal, right? They 2020 lost to the Chiefs too, and I mean, this one just hurts more, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know what else the 49ers can do to try to get over the hump because they have their quarterback still in Brock Purdy. They still have, you know, these weapons on offense and things like that, and it's just, I don't know what they can do, to go over the hump now. Um, really just don't know at this point, like, what are they going to be able to do now? Um, so we'll see, but let's just kind of go over the game. So I mean, I'm gonna kind of end up going backwards, to be honest. So offense will get to last, but I'm gonna start off with special teams. Special teams, I mean, they did a pretty good job in terms of punting. A few times Mitch Wishnowsky, had them weighed back in, like at the 5 yard, the 2 yard line and things like that. And um, special teams, yeah, Moody missed the kick because it got blocked. Moody's gonna have to figure out, like, you know, what he can kind of do to, you know, um, improve that. Obviously that also starts with some of the guys up front when taking the extra point or kicking a field goal. But Moody had a pretty good, I'd say, rookie season. Was a little inconsistent, where he had games where he'd miss the first one, but then did better throughout the game. But that just, I think, just the rookie, um, nerves, and I think he should be fine. He'll continue to improve and work on it. But I think that special teams, the biggest issue I had was with the Ray McLeod, um, punt. Like, it ended up touching, I believe it was Darrell Luter Jr., the rookie cornerback, and then because it touches him, you have to pick it up. Because otherwise, if the Chiefs, touch it, then it's their ball. So Ray McLeod, he goes on, he tries to get it, and then he fumbles it. I mean, he should have just, like, kind of gone over on the football and just taken it. I don't understand why this has to be an issue. It's happened a few times now. I'm gonna have to put some blame, on special teams coordinator. You know, um, I'm gonna have to put some blame on Brian Schneider. Um, you're supposed to be, making sure these guys do the right things. When it comes to the return games continue to just be awful throughout this entire regime. When it comes to like punt returning, kick returns, I mean, they haven't had a kick return or even one for a touchdown in a very long time. It was Richie James Jr., but I mean, even he had issues. So I just don't know, man. Special teams, I don't know, what do they end up like moving on from Brian Schneider? I'm not really sure. I feel like I'm 50-50 on that because, again, the punting game, I thought, has been pretty good this season. It hasn't been terrible in my opinion. And then, field goal kicking, yeah, Moody's missed, stuff like that. But my biggest thing is just that return game, again, continues to just be devastating and not improve. we've had the same issues for the past few years. So let me know what you guys think about that. I'm 50-50 on that part. Um, and then really next up, we have the defense. Just very unfortunate for a guy like Dre Greenlaw. I mean, I feel so just bad for him, right? Achilles injury, right when you see that he's a little bit hyped up, then he's about to go onto the field, you see that he slips. And I don't think there's a single person that didn't think it was, either an ACL or an Achilles injury, especially after you heard that he couldn't put pressure on it. And then, of course, the cart came out. Fortunately, I knew as soon as I heard that he's going to be out for, the rest of the game and now next season. It's the last game of the, playoffs. This was the Super Bowl, so who knows when he'll be even back. And this is, going into his contract year as well, next year. So that's just, man, it's so tough. And that really affected the outcome of this game defensively because you held Travis Kelce to 1 yard, 1 reception, um, you know, throughout this entire first half. The defense did an outstanding job, even despite like him going out, sometime in the second quarter. Like there was still a good amount of time that you didn't have him in the second quarter. And it's just you had Oren Burks, who's really, really slow. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles out there too. You just don't have the speed, and Kyle Shanahan ain't going to be playing rookies. D. Winter, he has the speed, but he's a rookie. He hasn't played, right? You didn't play him throughout the season, really. So, I mean, you had to, deal with these veteran guys. So that definitely affected the 49ers. But this defense just, I mean, played really well. I feel like for like 3 quarters, but then just in that fourth quarter and overtime, you gotta put a spy on Patrick Mahomes and that play where they convert on fourth down where he just rolled to the right. I mean, as a fan, I knew that's exactly what was happening. I don't know what Steve Wilkes was doing there, having DBs on that field. Why during that play? 5 DBs on the field during that play? Like, come on, Steve Wilkes. I don't know if you guys saw this, but even throughout the game, right? You actually saw at one point Kyle Shanahan, they showed it on the broadcast, was talking to Steve Wilkes and telling him what to run. That's just how you know, dude. Steve Wilkes, man. I'm gonna give him his flowers. At this, throughout the season, I have criticized him because I'm just like, what is he doing, right? Especially during that 3-game losing streak where he does an all-out blitz to end the first half versus the Vikings. Like, it's just I don't know. He is getting some interest from the league. I don't really know if he's gonna have much other interest though, because it seemed like it was head coaching positions, and pretty much I believe all those are now filled up. It's just more position coaches, becoming like offense coordinators. So, the 49ers are going to be losing. You know, one of their guys already, it was reported that he was gonna be going to the Saints. It's Clint Kubiak, passing game coordinator, gonna be the OC of the New Orleans Saints now. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what the coaching changes are like this off season. I mean, you don't have Adam Peters anymore, so how does the draft now look? It's John Lynch that they probably are gonna promote within. Is it gonna be director of scouting? Um, you know, is it gonna be director of scouting? Is it gonna be Ahmed? Harik Ahmed, is he gonna be possibly getting a promotion? I mean, we'll see what ends up happening, but that's probably what they're gonna try to kind of focus on. They'll have their end of their press conference, and then I'm sure they'll soon after announce that, and then pretty quickly. The free agency is gonna, take place. Um, so that's gonna be interesting to see as well who the free agents, are gonna be and all, like who they bring. But free agency is March 11th through the 13th, I believe. Um, yeah, 11th through the 13th. So we'll see what ends up happening. But we'll actually go over kind of some of the free agents, yeah, after this. But definitely gonna be interesting to see what ends up happening there. Just with the um, coaching staff, see if there's any really big changes. Defensive coordinator, or like I said, they're gonna have to now get a new passing game coordinator because Clint Kubiak's going to the Saints as the offensive coordinator. Tariq Ahmad probably gonna be, promoted from director of scouting to the assistant GM for John Lynch. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening there. But really, this defense, I thought played fairly well for the majority of this game. It was just really, I think, on that last drive in, the drive in overtime, right? They, had the, just couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes. They did a great job of stopping Isaiah Pacheco. The run defense the last 2 weeks really were an issue. Great job by that defense. Great job by Chase Young, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, right? I mean, they did pretty well on defense, especially the defensive line. Um, there was one kind of problem with the secondary early on where Jair Brown got beat. I think, if I remember, it was Nicole Hardman. And then Gibson was right, near there, but he slowed down. He is a free agent. I think he is probably gonna retire. So then it's gonna be Hufanga and Jair Brown for the future, which is gonna be, I think, just outstanding. I mean, Jair Brown showed some really good flashes. I mean, he had that interception, right? Great, it was just great job by Jair Brown. So the defense I thought was outstanding for the most part, and they got, but in overtime they were just not containing him. I feel like he kind of knew he was gonna, take it over and he was gonna run it now too, right? Because the 49ers were giving, those kind of opportunities on defense for the Chiefs. Um, so yeah, let's talk about the offense now. The offense, I mean, they start off well, right, going down the field, then CMC fumbles. That definitely hurt them because they could have at least gotten 3 there or even a touchdown, and they end up probably winning this game. Um, as well as, the offensive line false starts. Trent Williams had back-to-back, or I think it was holding actually, and then there was, I believe, a false start. So just the penalties on the offensive line definitely, helped, was the reason why there was an issue in offense, because they just shot themselves in the foot. They would be on like 3rd and 5, 2nd and 5, and then next thing you know, because they have a penalty, now they're 2nd and 15, 2nd and long, 3rd, 15, 3rd and long, and then they just ended up having to punt. They just were not able to, you know, take those opportunities that the defense was giving them. And then also defensively, I mean, I just don't understand too where, you know, or sorry, offensively, where shout out to the Chiefs defense. They are for real. They've been a good portion of why the Chiefs even made the Super Bowl, you know, this year, because that Chiefs offense was not the same, right? They had drops and things like that from receivers, had a couple in this game too. So just the offense, man, they had the opportunities. Brandon Ayuk, where was he afterwards? I mean, he was doing a pretty good job. I get that the Chiefs are making adjustments, but then you also have to adjust Kyle Shanahan. You have to find ways to start getting him open. I mean, you're the offensive mind, the offensive guru. I absolutely loved that Jennings touchdown, that trick play. Um, why weren't there kind of more of those? I'm not saying the exact same thing, At times you had Juszczyk, in the backfield, like on the other side, and then you had Christian McCaffrey. Why not use Elijah Mitchell or Jordan Mason in some of those plays? Um, Offensive line, man, they need to invest in the offensive line this offseason, in free agency somehow, and the draft. They need to go get multiple offensive line, and because especially that right side, once John Feliciano went down, Spencer Burford came in, and man, he was struggling. There's that play on that touchdown that they had open for Jennings, right, in overtime. Spencer Burford, you see he's rotated like a weird direction, and then he just lets Chris Jones right through, and then, you know, he did, Brock Purdy has no chance. Again, Jennings was open, probably a touchdown if he had like 2 seconds even. So they need to invest on this offensive line. The 49ers, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan every year. I mean, this is basically every team, right? They look at how the year went. They look at, okay, this is what we need to prioritize. This is what we need to improve on. And, we said that the defensive line was something that they still could have added from after last season. And, they go out and sign Javon Hargrave, trade for Chase Young, who's now a free agent. But I just think that, um, it's going to be, I think, just kind of crazy to do that. But yeah, it's quite insane just to see this offensive line and, have issues. They need, again, go draft more offensive line. I think they need to definitely spend a first round pick on an offensive lineman. If they need to trade up, they can. They have, I think, 11 draft picks. Let's see. And I don't know if they're all finalized because, there's those comp picks and stuff that they would receive, um, for losing free agents and depending on, who they sign in those contracts and playing and stuff. But so the 49ers currently have a first round pick, second round pick, third round pick, a compensatory third round pick, a fourth round pick, and then a fourth round pick from the Cowboys, which I believe is the Trey Lance pick that they got up, and then they got two compensatory picks in the fifth round, a sixth round comp pick, a seventh round, and then a seventh round pick from another seventh round pick from the Broncos, which I believe was because of the Randy Gregory trade. So, definitely have some draft picks. They have the ability, to move up in this draft. Now that they have, two fourth round picks, they can use one of those at least, to move up. And we know Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they move up if they, like a player, right? This last year, they didn't have a pick till the third round because they, made trades, the trade up for Trey Lance and then, Christian McCaffrey and also they traded up. I think it was with the Minnesota Vikings, like to pick 87 or something, and they ended up drafting Jair Brown. So the 49ers are definitely willing to, you know, move up in the draft if they are really coveting a player that they really, really like. They're not scared to shy away from that. So, again, I really hope that they end up figuring out this offensive line right. I mean, John Feliciano, he's also a free agent. I don't really know if he'll come back. I feel like a team's gonna give him a chance, somewhere else probably to be a starter. So they are definitely gonna have to figure out this offensive line. They need to give Brock Purdy, time. I think at this point, right, this window is closing. I think this was the year to do it. And they have to now pay Brandon Ayuk this year too, this offseason. So, because he's a free agent after, this next season, 2025. So it's going to be interesting. The 49ers don't have a lot of cap space right now. They can manipulate, create more cap space by restructuring guys, but there's also a limit of, you don't want to restructure too much. You have Brock Purdy on that rookie contract still, right? Free agent in 2025. So, I think the window's still open, but it's next year's the year they have to do it. And they need to invest on this offensive line, right? I mean, Eric Armstead, I don't know what's going to happen with him because, he fought some injuries this year too. Even last year too, unfortunately. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, if anything interesting happens with him. But I think they need to also go get a center for the future, draft a center for the future. Get a guy who, is versatile, a guy that can play guard too. But I guess you redshirt him, for Jake Brendel, and you know, put him in the future for the future. I mean, what was it? I think Jake Brendel, they signed Jake Brendel for, I think it was like a 3-year deal. Let me double check. Okay, it was a 2-year deal. So, uh, yeah, I mean, I guess because they probably, I think, restructured, or no, it was a 4-year deal. Okay. Now there is a out that they have this year if they wanted to, a dead cap of 2.7 mil. So, maybe they move on from him. Could he retire? Because I mean, he is, you know, he's 31, I guess. So I mean, he's not old. Like he probably has 1 or 2 more years. But again, they have the potential if they wanted to. But I think they probably won't get out of it, and then they might just draft a guy this year, and then, I mean, the dead cap isn't crazy. It actually lowers every year until 2027. So, you know, I think they should invest on that. Go draft a center, get a guy to, go behind Jake Brendel. I think that I wouldn't draft a center in the first round, but second round, draft a center. First round, draft a right tackle. Um, draft some guards too. I think this draft needs to be offensive line heavy. I think they can definitely go cornerback and safety still. Every year you still want to draft a corner. Safety, I think that's kind of the case too now with the 49ers because they don't really, they have George Odom who's special teams, but they still need one more guy. So maybe they sign a guy in free agency for depth. Um, but they need to have some improved depth at safety. Especially Ufanga coming off that ACL. Um, and now in linebacker is a question mark too because Jay Greenlaw's going to be out for pretty much most of the year, maybe if any, probably the entire year. So definitely the 49ers have some decisions to make. Give me just Sorry about that. So yeah, offensively, it's just could not take the opportunities that they were given, right? I mean, they had some good players versus this Chiefs defense, and this defense is, pretty good for the Chiefs. I kind of underestimated that defensive line because I really thought it was Chris Jones and then, I mean, George Karlaftis, but they were pretty good, right? I mean, I just don't know, like, what else they can do to, get this team over the hump. I think the fix now is just, dealing with the offensive line. It's kind of interesting because the 49ers, right, if you look at that offensive line, 2019, they didn't really spend a crazy amount on it because, I mean, they had Mike McGlinchey, right, that they drafted. They thought he could be the future. I mean, he was great in run blocking, but pass protection was an issue, and he was gonna, they didn't bring him back because he was getting a lot of money, and so, they had Colton McKivitz that they drafted late in the fifth round, who, I thought had a pretty solid season, but I think they need to upgrade um, from there, and even he isn't under contract for too long either. Um, Anymore. So I think that, uh, they definitely, yeah, 2025, he's a free agent. They also have an out after this year too, if they really wanted to get out of it, which it was a 2-year deal, but I don't see that really happening. But they definitely should upgrade there. I think he's solid as depth. But they still can improve that depth too. Just looking at the 49ers roster real quick. Just pull up offensive line wise, right? So yeah, again, going kind of back to them before I kind of get into who else they have, but they spent a third and a fifth round pick on Trent Williams from Washington, right after Joe Staley retired, right? So that was fine. Um, Again, because they ended up getting him. Um, Then they ended up, spending a second round pick on Aaron Banks, which they ended up sitting him, for a year because they still had Laken Tomlinson. And then Laken Tomlinson left because he got the bag with the Jets, right? So again, he ended up leaving. Um, so now I think that left side's still good, but Trent Williams, right? He said he's gonna still be back, but probably I'd say at max 2 years with him. So maybe you need also you I think you need to start thinking about the future too for left tackle because you got pretty lucky getting another Hall of Fame left tackle. So those don't really come around. A lot of teams have to end up drafting and then they don't end up working out. So 49ers, they need to go get some young guys in this draft. And, free agency's tough because a lot of these guys are going to get, a good amount of money. So, yeah, but I mean, Spencer Burford, he was a fourth round pick. He definitely struggled this year. So I think they still could definitely, like, second round, go draft a right guard. Um, and then, again, right tackle, right? Colton McKivitz is fine. Again, that left side's good. And then center wise, probably draft a guy. I think the first 3 rounds really should be offensive line heavy. Um, and let's see, looking just at this right now. So they have Jake Brendel, Corey Luciano, which is practice squad guy, Aaron Banks, Ben Branch. He is a restricted free agent, but I don't think they're gonna bring him back. So then they have Jesse Davis. He's also practice squad guy. John Feliciano. I don't really know if he's gonna be back. I feel like he could get pretty good contract somewhere else. So even if they are able to bring him back, I still think they should draft some guys higher. Um, but then you have Matt Pryor. I mean, he just didn't do anything really at all this year. Nick Zakel, I mean, he was out for the year. He got hurt. I don't, they felt pretty high on him, but I like him at the interior. So I mean, just looking at kind of this depth chart, right? At the tackle spots, you have Trent Williams, Colton McKivitz, um, Nick Sakel. Matt Pryor's a free agent, so I'm not going to count free agents. Um, or sorry, not as Nick Sakel. So yeah, at tackles you have literally Colton McKivitz and Trent Williams. I mean, they have him on ESPN listed as a tackle, Nick Sakel, but he's more of an interior guy. So then in the interior, you have Jalen Moore, Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks, Nick Sakel, um, and then Jake Brendel, of course, too. So, you know, a guy that's really struggled, hasn't been able to do much at all, is Jalen Moore. I think um, they drafted him, so he still has a few years, 2025, I guess. So actually, yeah, not that much more. This will be his last year, but I think some of these guys, sorry, man. I think they need to just move on from Jalen Moore, um, and go get, improve that left side, especially right side, excuse me. So I like Spencer Burford still for depth. He's a fourth round pick. Just maybe needs a little bit more work. So, you know, you still have him, right? So I think that definitely again, they need to invest on this offensive line. That was one of the biggest takeaways I took from this preseason, or sorry, not the Super Bowl game. It's just, man, the offensive line really is gonna need some work here. Um, and I mean, Christian McCaffrey, we have to run the football more, even if it's not working. That's the same thing that happened in the last Super Bowl. Didn't run the football enough, Kyle, and run a little bit of Elijah Mitchell too. I mean, I think he had like one or two carries, but still, that's not good enough. Run the football. So, um, I don't know what else they need to do really to improve this team a lot. I think they have some big decisions to make this offseason. Even though they made it to the Super Bowl, they need to figure out how they get over the hump. And I think if they can, add some good defensive guys, right? Again, what's going to happen across from Nick Bosa? So, and then the depth. I think that they're going to learn from this defensive line depth too, because I think they kind of tried to cut edges and stuff because they had like Austin Bryant, and then I never thought very good of him. Then he was practice squad and things like that. So 49ers, I think, are going to invest in the defensive line again this offseason, especially depth-wise, and probably add one more guy across. They do have Robert Beal Jr., though, who I really like as a future depth guy that they have. He has tons of speed. Um, but yeah, so defensive line, what are they going to do with the linebacking core now that Greenlaw is going to be out for the year? Safety wise, probably get another corner, in the draft for depth. And then the biggest need to me is offensive line. I think the two biggest needs is defensive line and offensive line. Just in the trenches, they have to improve and not figure out what they're going to do this offseason. And we'll continue to talk about it, of course, right? What they can continue to kind of do this offseason. Um, you know, now we have a month till free agency. Pretty much exactly a month because I was saying March 11th to the 13th. So yeah, I believe 11th is like when the window kind of opens to be able to at least talk to free agents, and then 13th is when it actually becomes official. So there'll be trades and all that kind of happen too, in this off season as well, like any other off season. So those would be official during that, 13th March of for during free agency. So definitely going to be an interesting off season. Again, invest on the offensive line, improve that defensive line depth, get another guy across from Nick Bosa. Um, Again, those are the two biggest needs I see. But let me know how you guys feel in the comments below about this game, about the off season. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button for me. Turn the notification bell on. I'd really appreciate it. Share the channel to the everybody. Peace out. Keep the faith, guys. Um, this one's heartbreaking. It's been hurting me since last night. It's been a rough day for sure. But alrighty, guys. Peace out.